The human contingency. The Galactic Council had seen thousands of species rise and fall across the stars. They had witnessed empires that spanned sectors, civilizations that had mastered the very fabric of reality, and races so ancient they had forgotten their own origins. But nothing, absolutely nothing, had prepared them for humanity. It started with a distress call. 3 months earlier, the cargo vessel Meridian's Hope drifted through the Kepler expanse, its engines humming their usual monotonous rhythm. Captain Elena Vasquez sat in her command chair, coffee in hand, reviewing the manifest for the 14th time that shift. Standard stuff, agricultural equipment for the colony on Proxima VII, medical supplies, a few luxury items for homesick settlers. Captain, her navigator, Junho Park, called out, "We're picking up a signal, it's weird." Elena set down her coffee. Define weird. It's on a frequency that shouldn't exist, like physically shouldn't be possible with our understanding of subspace, and it's repeating. The bridge fell silent, except for the rhythmic beeping now emanating from the communications console. "Play it," Elena commanded. What came through wasn't a message. It was a scream, not of pain, but of terror so profound it seemed to transcend language itself. Then, cutting through the noise, a single word in galactic standard. "Run." Elena should have listened. The Vorath. The Galactic Council's emergency session was already in chaos when Ambassador T. Kella of the Zenthari Collective entered the chamber. The holographic displays showed it clearly. 17 council worlds, gone dark within 6 hours. No survivors, no wreckage, just silence. "It's the Vorath," someone whispered. The name spread through the chamber like poison. The Vorath, a name from the before times, from the era when the galaxy was young and stupid and full of arrogance. The Council's predecessors had encountered them once, 5,000 years ago. The encounter lasted 3 days. It cost the ancient civilizations 47 worlds and nearly 2 billion lives before the Vorath simply stopped. They vanished back into the dark spaces between stars, back to whatever nightmare realm they called home. The Treaty of Silence had been signed in blood and desperation. Never speak of them. Never search for them. Never, ever wake them again. Someone had broken the treaty. First contact, round 2. The Meridian's Hope dropped out of FTL directly into hell. Where Proxima VII should have been, there was only debris. The colony, the orbital stations, the defense platforms, all of it reduced to glowing fragments spreading slowly through the void. "Oh my God," Junho breathed. That's when the Vorath ships appeared. They didn't look like ships. They looked like nightmares given form, organic, writhing masses of black matter that seemed to absorb light itself. Dozens of them, each the size of a city, moving with impossible grace. "All power to engines," Elena barked. "Get us out of." The Meridian's Hope lurched violently as something slammed into their hull. Alarms shrieked. Hull breaches on decks 3 through 7. Life support failing. Engines offline. They were dead in space. A Vorath vessel approached, its surface rippling with what might have been curiosity. Elena watched it on her cracked view screen, waiting for the end. That's when Chief Engineer Marcus Chen spoke up from the back of the bridge. "Captain, I have a really stupid idea." The human solution. Marcus's stupid idea involved overloading the ship's fusion reactor, rigging the cargo bay to explosively decompress, and timing it all to coincide with the Vorath ship coming alongside to harvest them. "This is insane," Elena said. "Absolutely," Marcus agreed. "But we're dead anyway, might as well take one with us." It was the most human thing she'd ever heard. They executed the plan flawlessly. The Meridian's Hope detonated like a miniature star, the fusion core's explosion amplified by the agricultural fertilizer in the cargo hold. Thousands of tons of ammonium nitrate that humanity had learned centuries ago made an excellent improvised explosive. The Vorath ship, expecting easy prey, was caught completely off guard. Its organic hull ruptured. Atmosphere vented. It spun wildly, colliding with 2 more Vorath vessels before all 3 were consumed in secondary explosions. The escape pod carrying the Meridian's Hope's crew of 23 limped away into the darkness, its dying sensors recording everything. The Council's desperation. When the Council received the data from the escape pod, they didn't believe it at first. The Vorath were supposed to be invincible. They had shrugged off antimatter weapons, phased through quantum shields, and ignored every advanced technology the ancient civilizations could muster. But they'd never encountered someone crazy enough to just blow themselves up and take the enemy with them. Ambassador Tikela studied the human survivors with new eyes. They sat in the council chamber, still covered in burns and bandages, looking defiant despite being the only members of a species that wasn't even a full council member yet. "You destroyed 3 Vorath vessels," Tikela said slowly, "with chemical explosives." "And spite," Elena added, "mostly spite. Your species is insane." "We prefer creatively desperate." Elena leaned forward. "Look, Ambassador, I've read the files you sent over. I know what the Vorath are. I know what happened 5,000 years ago. But I also know that every report from back then says the same thing. They're hunters. They rely on their prey being afraid, being predictable." "And humans are not predictable," Tikela finished. "Ma'am, we're the species that looked at the food chain and decided we were going to fight our way to the top despite being slow, weak, and having no natural weapons. We're the ones who saw fire and thought, let's keep that inside our houses. We sent people to our moon in a tin, with less computing power than a modern toaster just to see if we could do it." Elena stood, her burned hands clenched into fists. "We don't know how to quit. It's literally not in our programming. So if you want someone crazy enough to fight monsters that civilizations 1,000 times older than us ran from, you want someone stupid enough to think they can win." She grinned, and there was something feral in it. "You want humans. The human contingency." 3 weeks later, the Vorath learned what humanity meant by asymmetric warfare. It started with the mining drones. Thousands of them, hijacked and reprogrammed, each loaded with whatever explosive materials the humans could manufacture, scavenge, or improvise. They swarmed the Vorath vessels like angry hornets, detonating against their hulls in clusters, overwhelming their regenerative abilities through sheer volume of attacks. Then came the dirty tricks, as the human military advisors called them. Fusion mines disguised as debris, computer viruses that somehow infected organic matter, kinetic kill vehicles, literally just chunks of metal accelerated to a significant fraction of light speed, because humans had learned that sometimes the oldest weapons were the most effective. The Vorath adapted, of course. They started targeting the human worlds directly, reasoning that eliminating the source of this unexpected resistance would solve the problem. They didn't understand humans at all. Earth's last stand. When the Vorath fleet emerged in Earth's solar system, every prediction said humanity had 6 hours before extinction. The defense satellites were gone in minutes. Mars' colony went dark. The Jupiter stations were obliterated. The Vorath armada, now numbering in the hundreds, descended on Earth like a plague. What they found waiting was every ship humanity had ever built, including museum pieces from the early space age, refitted with weapons and crewed by volunteers who knew they weren't coming back. Behind them, Earth's surface had been transformed into the largest fortress in human history. Every city a bunker, every civilian armed, every piece of infrastructure rigged to blow if necessary. The message humanity broadcast was simple: you want our world, come and take it. The battle lasted 11 days. The Vorath lost. Not because humans had better technology, they didn't. Not because of superior tactics. Human tactics were barely organized chaos. They lost because humans fought with a ferocity that didn't make sense, a refusal to die that bordered on supernatural. When Vorath warriors boarded human vessels expecting easy prey, they found crew members who'd set their own ships to self-destruct and were just buying time for the timers to count down. When they landed on Earth's surface, they encountered an enemy that refused to retreat, that turned every building into a death trap, that kept fighting with improvised weapons even when military stockpiles ran dry. And when the Vorath finally managed to crack Earth's defenses and breach the final bunkers, expecting to find survivors ready to surrender, they instead found rooms full of civilians who'd armed themselves with whatever they could find and were prepared to make the invaders pay for every inch. The Vorath had never encountered prey that fought like predators. They'd never faced an enemy that treated death not as an ending, but as a final opportunity to hurt the other side. On the 11th day, the Vorath fleet withdrew. For the first time in their species' history, they retreated. Aftermath. The Galactic Council chamber was silent as Captain Vasquez, now Admiral Vasquez, finished her report. Around her, representatives from 100 worlds stared in disbelief at the data. The Vorath, driven back. 23 of their vessels destroyed outright. The rest damaged and fleeing toward the galactic rim. How, someone finally asked, how did you survive? Alina looked at the assembled representatives, beings who had millions of years of history, who had mastered sciences humanity barely understood, who had built civilizations across thousands of worlds. Because we're too stupid to know when we're beaten, she said simply, and too stubborn to care even when we figure it out. She pulled up a final image on the displays, Earth scarred and burning but intact, and on every continent lights were coming back on. Humans were already rebuilding. The Vorath are hunters who rely on fear, Alina continued. They're used to prey that runs. What they're not used to is prey that turns around and bites back. They've never encountered a species that looks at impossible odds and takes it as a challenge instead of a death sentence. Ambassador Tikela stepped forward, the council leader's ceremonial staff in hand. Admiral Vasquez, the council has made a decision. We are offering humanity full council membership, with all rights and responsibilities that entails. Alina nodded slowly. We accept, on one condition. Name it. We want access to every scrap of data you have on the Vorath. Every encounter, every analysis, everything. Because they'll be back eventually. And when they come, we're not going to just survive them. She smiled, and it was the smile of a predator that had just discovered it was stronger than it thought. We're going to hunt them. Epilogue, the new treaty. In the dark spaces between stars, the Vorath gathered. They were ancient, powerful, and had never known defeat, until now. The data they'd gathered on humanity was disturbing. These beings were weak by any physical measure. Their lifespans were brief. Their technology was primitive compared to the council races. But they were dangerous in a way the Vorath had never encountered. They were a species that had evolved on a death world, fighting for survival against creatures stronger and faster than themselves. They were predators who'd learned to use their weaknesses as weapons, who turned their fragility into motivation rather than limitation. The Vorath understood something then that they'd never had to consider before. There were two types of prey in the galaxy. There was prey that ran, that hid, that hoped to survive through caution and fear. And then there was prey that had forgotten it was supposed to be afraid. Humanity was the second type, and the galaxy would never be the same. The end.